Success will look like when we have patients involved in all phases of drug development, when we discuss benefit risk with patients, when we understand what are relevant endpoints in clinical trials for patients, when we understand what it really takes for patients to have a successful drug for them, when we really understand what's the unmet medical need that we're trying to serve, and ultimately when patients also play a role in helping getting access to the drug, so working with regulators and working with HTAs. So I think there is quite a bit of work to be done, but again, from a mission perspective, from a social architecture perspective, and from an intent at Amgen, we're really geared up for that. From an intent, we're completely there. Everybody really wants to serve patients, and everybody wants to make a difference. I would also think from a benefit perspective of the new medicines we have medicines that really provide huge benefit. Now, when you talk about gaps, I think at present we do a lot of point-to-point interactions with patients. I think where we want to get to is a continuous relationship, where we really establish a trusting relationship over a long period of time, where we talk about very good things, where we talk about potential problems, so that we really have this continuous relationship of trust, to use this word again, where we can help each other, and where at the same time we really understand that we have a mutually respectful two-way conversation and not a one-way conversation. On the other hand, I have to say also, we've kind of formed a pretty powerful group within the company that consists of R&D, that consists of medical, which is part of R&D, of commercial, of market access, where we think about how can we work best with patients. So there is a clear plan and a clear group active to get to the ultimate outcome. So first of all, I think it's in the patient's very own interest. And you know, when I talk about patients, I also talk about myself, right? I think there's not a single soul on this planet who has never been a patient for one reason or the other. So I talk as much about the formal patient community you mentioned and myself. So I think first of all, we should really try to be as informed as we can. I think it's important to really know our disease, and very often patients know their diseases much better than any researcher, if you like. I think once we have that knowledge, we have to think as a patient community, how can we organize ourselves? Because of course an individual view is very important. Once I have a patient group that works together, and perhaps several patient groups that work together, it's much more powerful. I think it's very important when we get input from patients that it's, if I may say, representative, that it's not an individual view, but it's really representative of what, let's say, the burden of disease is, of what would be relevant endpoints in a clinical trial, what would be a benefit, what would be a risk that would be acceptable or desirable for a patient. And I think that's an important one. And then, quite honestly, be proactive. I think patient groups can work on so many levels. So here we are at NHC, so we talk about the policy level. What can we do across many different patient organizations to really change policy and make progress there? Then we can talk about a disease group or specific diseases. So really educate other patients, work with the stakeholders to make a real difference there. And when I say work with other stakeholders, maybe we should be very specific. So I'm not just talking about healthcare providers, I'm talking about regulators. I'm talking about those who assess the benefit. The European term would be health technology assessment bodies, and those who pay for it, payers, and of course industry. And I think when we want to be successful as a patient group, we have to engage with all these stakeholders. And then there's a third level, which is the disease-specific piece. If we inform a specific trial or we talk to, let's say, a drug development entity about what really is important for me as a patient, so that we are more informed. And I would suggest that all of these levels are critically important for success for patient groups.